Well, good morning, good day, everybody. ADM YouTube video here. Freddie Humfrey, head of grain trading, talking to you today in the middle of December. So quite an interesting week in terms of USDA. We had a USDA report Tuesday afternoon, evening UK time, and very much came in as per expectations, if I'm completely honest with you. Not an expected big mover from a December report. We very rarely see the USDA make significant moves, particularly in the US numbers this time of the year, and the report didn't fail on that front. We did see a slight drop off in corn global ending stocks. That came very much as a consequence of higher demand rather than lower production, and I think that's fairly reasonable when we look at particularly the US trade flows. Well accepted now by the world market that the US has a large crop, combination of decent acreage and very, very strong yields. That came as confirmation through harvest, July, August, September, and we see a decent exportable surplus in the US, and certainly the weekly export numbers from the US have been showing some very strong numbers. So an increased demand in corn, particularly on the US front, comes as no great surprise, and corn pricing aggressively, particularly into Asia and Southeast Asia against feed wheat origins. So macro piece, USDA, not a huge amount of jumping around, but slightly tighter corn perspective on the back of increased demand on that side. We're going to jump now to the most recent AHDB S&D updates. So we're going to look at the official figures from the AHDB released for November 10 days ago, and then we're also going to have a quick deep dive into why the market's doing what it's doing, some production numbers, some import numbers, and then we're going to look at the Instat and extra stat numbers on where that import is coming from. So we're just going to pull the AHDB numbers up on the screen in front of you. As you can see, it's an ADM slide. However, these have been pulled directly off the AHDB website, publicly available on their S&D piece on the platform there. So what you can see here is, first of all, I think a clear need for greater imports this year. We see production at 11 million tons. That at one stage was feared to be even lower than that, at 10 million tons versus nearly 14 million tons last year and 15.5 million tons the year before. So nearly a 35% decrease from production in 2022-23 through to this season. So a significant hole in the balance sheet from a pure production perspective. I think we all well know that consequence of significantly lower area in the winter wheat drilling piece, having had a very, very wet autumn this time last year, failing to, as a consequence, failing to plant a lot of that crop. So an 11 million ton production, when we look at it, despite the big carryover stock at nearly 3 million tons from last year into this, that still does leave a significant requirement for imports. The AHDB have got those import levels at 2.7 million tons, a 13% increase year on year, and despite that big carry in and the large import program, we still have a total availability. So that's opening stocks, production, and imports combined, everything that's available to the marketplace, down 9% year on year. Thus, the requirement for a large import program to the UK. So why do we need to import it? Well, we've got a decent human and industrial consumption and animal usage, animal feed usage number at 7.3 and 6.4 million tons respectively. Quite interesting that human industrial H&I number only down 2% year on year. I think when we think about how aggressive corn has been into the UK market, particularly into some of the bioethanol plants in the north and also into the distilleries and in the very north of the country, minus 2% maybe looks a little bit strong at this stage. However, if that is the case, then as we go back up to that total availability, we do need to maintain a decent import program. We have seen that corn replace quite a significant amount of wheat, we believe, in the northwest in the feed ration, and over up in the north, as I say, in the bioethanol and distillery plants for the H&I. So quite an interesting dynamic, 9% drop in total availability, and actually only a 6% drop in total domestic consumption, thus the requirement to find replacement supply of wheat and or replacement commodities like corn, replacing feed wheat in the UK ration on the imports. So a big import program coming directly as a consequence of a significantly lower production number this year at 11 million tons, that production. So as I say, we're going to have a little bit of a dive into the Instat numbers here. and the extra stat numbers. So again, these are the official numbers. Any import program has to be formally registered with the authorities, part of the legislative requirements. And so this is everything up to September, the end of September. We usually see a rolling delay on reporting by about 2 months, so we would expect the October numbers to come out in the not too distant future. But as you can see there, we're just going to start with the Instat numbers. So these are EU numbers, and as you can see, July through to Sep, so we're talking crop year, not wheat harvest year. Crop July through Sep, we've got a total imported from the Instat countries by 687,723 metric tons. Just digging into where that's coming from, the vast majority of that's coming from Germany, just short of 300,000 tons. When we think about what that is, the vast majority of that German wheat coming into the UK will be German A wheat. That's a 13% protein blended wheat to replace Group 1s here in the flour grist. Why is that? Well, because a lot of the Group 1s in the UK didn't hit that 13% protein quality this year. Actually, we see generally 12.2 to 12.3% protein across the board. So a requirements not only from a quantity perspective on total production, but when we dig down into the Group 1s, also a quality perspective. We also see some reasonable volume coming through from Denmark. So that predominantly will be feed wheat. Again, filling that production hole. Some reasonable volume coming from Poland and Sweden as well. So you can see there, European numbers totaling 687,000. When we jump to the extra stats, that's the third country trade, you can see a total this year of 199,571, slightly higher than last year, last year's July set total at the time this time last year. The majority of that again being Canadian at nearly 170,000 tons. That's a high protein, again coming into the UK for flour grist, something like a 15% protein, so something we don't produce in the UK, and is a consistent inelastic demand profile into the UK that we see most years, that you can see further left on those slides. We do see a little bit of Ukrainian coming into the UK. I would suspect that's feed wheat, but not entirely sure. As I say, it doesn't break down on quality. So total number for imports up to the end of September of 887,000 tons this year. You can also see the origins for last year on the column to the left of the ones highlighted. So a very similar profile in terms of origin, albeit with the smaller production that we've had this year in the UK, a slightly increased volume across the board. So yeah, actually quite normal in terms of the origin profile. And just jumping into current price parameters, we see Baltic and Northwest Europe wheat being the most competitive on a feed grade. Obviously, German continues to be ish competitive in versus Group 1s, albeit Group 1s, the premium has come down significantly in the UK over the last 2 months to try and compete, and that is slowing that down. And when we jump on to next best, Eastern Europe continues to be reasonably aggressive, but about a tenner behind the Baltics. And then just for clarity, Russian wheat has a 35% import duty applied to it, and when we take that into consideration, it's between 70 and 80 pounds a ton more expensive than the best value Baltics on a feed grade. So very, very unlikely to be coming in into the UK this season, and as we can see, nothing has come in from that country thus far this year or last year. So hopefully that's been useful. As always, any comments, please do get in touch via the link below, and hopefully you have a fantastic holiday and Christmas period, and that you've enjoyed my Christmas jumper today, and very much a happy new year to everybody, and we'll see you in the new year. Thank you very much for your time.